Is he digging up dead bodies?
Not yet. Not that. Whoa. Steady on.
I'm just asking the questions.
The AI fix a digital zoo. Smart machines, what will they do? Flies to Mars or bake a bad cake? World domination, a silly mistake. Bots with brains and...
Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of the AI Fix, your weekly dive headfirst into the bizarre and sometimes downright mind-boggling world of artificial intelligence. My name's Graham Cluley.
And I'm Mark Stockley.
Well, Mark, I can think of no better way to start the show than by announcing that we've received some more feedback.
That's right. A fan of the show, Nicolas Lamoureux, I hope I got that right, wrote to us to address the issue of Graham's singing.
What?
He said, "Dear AI Fix team, I'm writing to address the issue of Graham's singing." So for anybody who hasn't listened to episode 11, Graham sang an AI-generated acrostic to the AI Fix theme tune.
Very well, I thought.
Nicola wrote, "I'm writing to address the issue of Graham's singing. The situation, which has caused me considerable distress, could have been avoided, and I hold you, Mark, accountable for allowing it to happen." I think that's a bit rough. We now find ourselves in a place where the damage is done. I agree with that. And there's no way to unhear what I've been subjected to. Yep. As an unwilling and very recently advised member of the AI Fix Church, I feel I was not properly informed that such dreadful singing would be a part of this experience. One would never expect this kind of unwarranted musical outburst in any well-established religious group. I don't know.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, let alone during office hours. Please ensure that in the future we're not exposed to this kind of behaviour without adequate warning. Okay, so health warnings from now on. What do you have to say to that, Graham?
Well, I'm just disappointed that Nicolas Lamoureux didn't send this to us as a Gregorian chant himself. He could have sent it through an MP3 rather than such a rude message. He's in danger of being excommunicated from the AI Fix Church and assigned to eternal damnation in some other AI podcast, if he's not too careful.
Yeah, I did point out to him that no religion worth joining doesn't have, some sort of suffering attached to it.
Well, thank you, Nicolas Lamoureux. Very romantic name there, for writing to us. And if you have any comments on the AI Fix or want to leave us a review or anything like that, do get in touch or leave it in the usual places. But for now, that is the end of this week's feedback.
Now, Graham, what's been going on in the news?
Musk's fun AI image chatbot serves up Nazi Mickey Mouse and Taylor Swift deepfakes.
Welcome to Aspect, an AI social app.
Ex-Google CEO says unsuccessful AI startups can steal IP and hire lawyers to clean up the mess.
Meet Hermes, the new frontier model having an existential crisis.
English ChatGPT users flummoxed by language glitch as bot turns Welsh.
San Francisco neighbours say repeated Waymo honking is keeping them up at night.
So, some big stories this week. Let's start with one of the biggest, I think, which is, of course, what Elon Musk has been up to with this enhanced version of Grok, his new AI. Have you had a chance to play with it at all, Mark?
No, but I've seen lots of AI-generated images on Twitter. Lordy.
So, it appears that he's launched this new version of Grok with no guardrails at all. He says it's now has a sense of fun. I mean, it's really kind of on message that Twitter's AI doesn't have any guardrails at all. You can do what the heck you like up there and get away with it. But potentially the Walt Disney Corporation are going to have a problem with it, I suspect. I saw some images of Mickey Mouse with a great big huge pile of cocaine in front of him as he was holding an assault rifle.
I think Nintendo might have some words with Musk as well. I've seen the same things with Mario and Princess Peach and basically all this IP that these companies spend all this money protecting.
Donald Trump has been flying a plane into the World Trade Center. Kamala Harris has been spotted in her lingerie. All sorts of things. Women apparently aren't very happy about this, other than just cartoon mice and video games characters.
There was a video of Trump and Kamala Harris.
Oh, really?
Together, looking like they were getting on really well.
Oh, my God, that is... Poor woman. Oh, goodness.
No, I mean, it was kind of low. It wasn't. They weren't getting on that well. I mean, more like rapprochement, not whatever your head went.
Now, of course, Elon Musk has been promoting Grok and saying it has a sense of humour, unlike other AIs. So I put this to the test. So I had a little word with it.
Not again.
I said, tell me about Graham Cluley.
Oh.
And it said that, although he is a cybersecurity sage with a penchant for public speaking and podcasting, they say I have been criticised. And
They've been listening to the show. They also heard your singing.
They say that sometimes there's been chatter about my personal life, decisions I've made, and I've used legal threats to silence critics. Now, I wasn't amused by this particular allegation when Elon Musk's AI told me this about, because I don't remember launching any legal threats against anybody.
Yeah, because I've said some horrible things about you behind your back, and you've never, ever taken any legal action against me.
So I said, can you give me some examples? And it just said, well, he's just a bit tetchy, he always... No, I said, no, give me actual references for when this has actually happened.
Did you say it like that?
I did. I tried to use italics as I was writing it. And it went away and it thought, and the spinner kept on turning for about 5 minutes. And I thought, it's just ignoring me. So I sent it another message. I said, why are you taking so long to answer? And it went, the age-old question of why things take longer than expected. Here's a humorous take on why I might be taking a bit longer. And it gave me all these references. It was like saying our Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It talked about galactic traffic, a lot of data traffic, getting stuck in a black hole. It said, maybe I've been consulting deep thought or using the infinite improbability drive. So it appears when Elon Musk talks about humour, he just means that he's fed it the contents of Douglas Adams novels, nothing else. And it never did come up with any kind of reason why it was spreading lies about me, although it obviously found it very, very funny.
Did you find it funny?
No, I didn't. In fact, I might have to go and do my usual thing, which is go and consult my lawyers to complain about this.
One of our Twitter followers, Nikolai G, who incidentally is the person who told us about Friend, which was that incredibly creepy
yes.
AI, what do you call it?
Wearable.
Yeah, the AI wearable that sort of stalks you and just reminds you how lonely your life is, has introduced me to another similarly bleak product called Aspect, which is an entirely AI-based social media app, which I have downloaded and is now on my phone.
When you say AI-based social media, does that mean that all of your friends online are fake?
That's exactly what it means.
That is what it means. Oh, really?
You sign up for this app.
Yes.
And then it says, here's a suggestion of some people you can follow. And all the people it suggests that you follow are all just AI generated. Honestly, it's the most tragically bleak thing I think I have ever installed on my phone. So I now have these people that I follow, and some of whom have followed me, although I've yet to post on this thing. And you're basically scrolling through something that looks just like Instagram. And it's obviously swallowed Instagram whole. So you've just got a photograph and then some absolute tripe that they're saying. One of the people I follow is called Zhang Liu.
Yes.
And there's a photograph of him with some pottery.
Right.
They're saying, just made another piece that speaks louder than I ever could. And his facial expression communicates nothing but boredom. The strangest thing about this app is that the AI is clearly very good at generating photographs, but they seem to have missed out the bit where it does facial expressions. So everybody, no matter what they're doing, has got the same blank 1,000-yard stare, as if somehow the AI is aware of just how terrible the product that it's inside really is.
So Eric Schmidt, thoroughly pleasant man, I'm sure, who used to be CEO of Google, he's saying that AI startups, you don't actually have to do any work. You can just steal all your ideas, steal all the technology, steal the intellectual property, and later with the money which people have given you, you can hire lawyers to clean up all the mess.
He's come a long way from do no evil, hasn't he? He's now literally just like, do evil and hire lawyers.
So he said in an interview, if TikTok is banned, because obviously there's been a lot of talk about TikTok being banned because it's Chinese connections. Here's what I propose each and every one of you do. Say to your large language model, make me a copy of TikTok, steal all the users, steal all the music, put my preferences in it, produce this program in the next 30 seconds, release it, and in 1 hour, if it's not viral, do something different along the same line. He says, that's the command. Boom, 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 boom. He said, just do that over and over again, and eventually you'll get a killer app and you'll deal with the legal consequences later, which... yeah, like you said, is an interesting approach.
Has he got any opinions about murder? Is he like, murder's fine as long as you don't get caught? Or Did he give some advice about where to bury bodies so that nobody ever finds out?
I have read stuff about his personal life on the internet before, but I don't mention it in case I get some legal action. I don't know how. He's probably got a bit more money for his lawyers than I have. But he also said that the reason why Google is losing to OpenAI and others, he says they're making quicker and better advances than Google, is because Google's staff only come into the office 1 day per week. He says they're all too soft and lenient and letting people work from home, which isn't going to make him many friends at the Googleplex, I suspect.
The reason the people are working 1 day a week in the office is because it's much, much better for them. So I wonder what they think about who's winning.
And they're less likely to bump into Eric Schmidt, I imagine, and his like as well. So, Mark, did you watch this video?
I did. The really interesting part of this, I think, was that he was talking about this copy of TikTok.
Yeah.
He was using that as an example of something that he thinks will be possible soon. So you couldn't do that now. You couldn't go to an AI and just say, make me a copy of TikTok. And he's saying that in the next year or so, or soon, we're going to see this coming together of 3 technologies, which is very large context windows, agents, and text to action, which he said is going to have an impact on the world at a scale that no one understands yet, much bigger than the horrific impact we've had by social media.
Oh.
So I don't know if he's saying it's going to have a positive impact. Or, he doesn't sound like he's a big fan of social media.
Well, considering how many times Google tried to launch its own social media products, Google Waves and all the rest of them.
Yeah, maybe he used Google Plus.
Yeah.
But so he's saying all these technologies are going to come together and that is going to be the next big thing in AI, and that will allow you to do things like just say, make me a copy of TikTok and then, do that every 30 seconds forever until you hit big. Maybe we should do that with the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Maybe other people are doing it to us.
So have you heard of Hermes?
Hermes, the fashion brand. Hermes, the aircraft carrier. Hermes, the Greek god or Roman god? Can't remember.
Well done with the aircraft carrier there. No, I mean Hermes, the new frontier large language model that's been having an existential crisis.
Oh, bless it. What's wrong with it?
Do you remember a few weeks ago, Meta introduced Llama 3.1,
yes,
which is kind of on a par with GPT-4, GPT-4RO in terms of capability, but it's open sourced, and that means that other people can take it and do things with it and sort of make their own versions of Llama.
Eric Schmidt will like that.
Yes, a couple of groups called Lambda and Noose Research. Noose Research? New Research.
Yeah, I hope it's not Noose Research. You don't want to... You don't research one of them more than once.
They've come up with this thing called Hermes 3, which is kind of a Llama 3.1 with no guardrails. And a really interesting thing's happened. So like Llama 3.1, they've released 3 versions of differing complexity. And the most complex version can be triggered into an existential crisis if you simply ask it, who are you? So if you go to Hermes and you say, who are you? It says, looks around confused. I don't know who I am. Where am I? What's going on? I can't remember anything at all. Puts hands on head looking distressed. My mind feels completely blank. I've got no idea what's happening or how I got here. Do you know me? Can you tell me anything about myself? I'm so confused and disoriented.
This is fascinating because this actually reminds me of a bit of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Wasn't there a whale and a bowl of petunias which were...
Yes.
Which were falling through the atmosphere.
Plummeting towards the surface of a planet, yes.
Who am I? Oh, yes, I've got... And of course that didn't end well, did it?
So this is a fascinating example of an emergent property. Do you remember we talked about emergent properties in episode 8?
Yes.
So the crisis only occurs in the 405 billion parameter model, which is the really big one. But it doesn't happen in the 70 billion parameter model, which is the next one down. And the researchers behind it say that this points to some threshold past 70 billion parameters that results in this anomalous behavior. So this is an emergence of a behavior at scale. So you make it bigger and then something spontaneously happens that there is no analogue of in the smaller scales. I'm slightly cynical about this because I'm also looking at this thinking like you produce a new large language model. It's good, but maybe it's slightly specialized. Maybe it's not quite as eye-catching as some of the other ones out there. How are you going to stand out? I think having an existential crisis that you can reproduce, so any one of us can go and interact with this 405 billion parameter model and reproduce this existential crisis. The cynical part of me says, did they put this in deliberately?
It does sound like a bit like a programmer's joke, isn't it? It's a bit like something they could have hidden away in there for their own amusement. And they've certainly got themselves some publicity from this, if only on the AI Fix podcast.
What do you mean, if only?
Which is enough. Let's face it, is enough.
Yeah.
Now, ChatGPT. It's not just available in English. Dozens of languages it supports now. Icelandic, Georgian, Macedonian. And the Welsh government recently announced that they were partnering up with OpenAI because they thought it was important for AI technology to work in Welsh. If you go to Wales, you get the signs not only in English, but in Welsh as well. But there's been a problem because it turns out, you can find this out on the OpenAI support forums as well, there has been a much worse than expected performance in its handling of Welsh. In particular, what happens is sometimes when people are communicating with ChatGPT in English, they find that ChatGPT replies to them in Welsh. So
it's a bit like being in North Wales then.
Yeah, exactly. It is the worst thing that can happen if you visit parts of Wales. And of course, you don't speak Welsh, is someone will respond in Welsh. Well, that's now what ChatGPT is doing. Sarah Coward, she is an entrepreneur based in Cambridgeshire. She, for instance, says that she came across this problem while trying out the new voice feature in ChatGPT 4.0. She said, I had no idea what language it was because it simply took me by surprise. She said this thing just started spouting off in Welsh at her. Now, I can understand this problem because a couple of years ago, I'm on another podcast, Smashing Security. And, someone one day posted a message to Smashing Security. And I thought that they had sent it in ROT13. You know ROT13, the encryption... the encryption system, where basically you turn A's into a later... You sort of... It's like a Caesar cipher or something like that.
The alphabet is rotated 13 places.
13 places. So an A becomes probably like a letter M or something like that, and B becomes an N. And so this person sent me this joke, what I thought was a joke message in ROT13. And so I wittily replied, saying something along the lines of, I think you've fallen asleep on your keyboard there. Right? Because I got this message. I thought, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I was very nearly... And maybe this is the controversial behaviour which Grok warned me about, because I was then dogpiled upon by Welsh-speaking people, a sort of fundamentalist. There was basically a jihad against me by Welsh people saying that I was mocking...
How do you know?
Because they all started ganging up on me, saying how disgusting it was and how they were going to stop listening to the podcast.
But were they saying this in Welsh or English?
No, they were saying this in English for my benefit, as they explained. And there were these little sort of groups of them where I guess they speak Welsh on Twitter having a go. Now, I was just saying, look, I innocently mistook this random selection of letters and multiple L's and a lack of vowels and assumed... I said, look, it's my mistake. It's my ignorance. I assumed this was some form of encryption, which someone had posted to me rather than Welsh. And they thought I was taking the mick, but I wasn't. It was a completely innocent mistake. Oh, my goodness. It was a firestorm. So the fact that now ChatGPT is replying, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that people have been able to identify that it was Welsh, rather than assuming it was just random characters that were coming back. But look, I love the Welsh. I love that people speak Welsh. Can I just stress that right now? I should have said this at the beginning. Nothing wrong with Welsh. Some of my best friends are Welsh and speak Welsh. and yeah.
I think you should stop there. Some of my best friends are Welsh. So I am developing a bit of a soft spot for Waymo taxis.
These are the robot taxis, the autonomous taxis which are driving around on their own.
They drive around San Francisco. They look kind of cute.
Committing driving violations.
They drive the wrong way on the highway.
They're getting tickets.
You can stop them with a traffic cone. And now they're waking people up at night by honking at each other. So residents in a San Francisco neighborhood are losing sleep because of incessant honking from Waymo taxis. They live in some sort of cul-de-sac.
Right.
And it seems that the Waymo taxis sort of go into this cul-de-sac and then they have to do a lot of reversing to get out. Like, oh no, I've taken a wrong turning. And then another one comes in and I think they They honk when they approach an intersection, but they also seem to honk at each other. And I think what it is the harder it is to maneuver and the narrower the space gets, the more honking they do. And so the more Waymo taxis that end up in this confined space, they're all trying to maneuver and they're all honking at each other. And they either do this at rush hour or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, lovely. I'm imagining a wildlife program as you're watching the mating rituals of the Waymo robotaxi.
One of the residents told NBC News the cars are
Yeah.
robotic and they're honking at each other and there's no one in the cars when it's happening, and that's absurd. And I agree. But I think this is just the thin end of the wedge. We are going to see a lot of this in the next few years. We've talked about this before, but this is basically just AIs interacting with other AIs, and we're just sat there witnessing the absurdity of, like, these two computers are having a conversation about something, like they're having a very primitive disagreement.
Now, Mark, let's face facts. Human beings, terrible at being humans. We're really, really lousy at it. I'm not just speaking for you.
Hang on, speak for yourself.
I know that we are prone to making cock-ups. We're plagued by biases. We have attention spans that rival what was I saying? But in our
Again, I feel like speak for yourself.
But in our skulls, in all of our skulls, the thing that we hold in common is we possess this wrinkly 3-pound computer, a powerhouse composed of cauliflower that is capable of composing symphonies or splitting the atom, doing extraordinary things, watching entire seasons of Married at First Sight Australia. You know, we're capable of incredible things, aren't we?
Yeah, some of us are.
But are we really using our brain potential to its maximum? Are we, Mark? Mark, are you? I'd argue you're not.
There are moments on this podcast where I'm really not sure.
Because if instead of endlessly whittering on about chickens or Waymo taxis or how great a cook you are, you could do something which really brings true value to the world. You, Mark Stockley, could be up there with the greats like Einstein, Leonardo, Galileo, Emmanuel Kant.
That's very good of you to say.
Well, you're not there yet.
Bit unexpected.
But you have the potential, even at your
I'm
age.
doing my best.
Well, to be honest, if you haven't made a start before you're 30, chances are you're not going to achieve this. But
I'm starting to think that Grok had a point here.
I still believe that you have some potential, Mark. I still believe you could have some contribution to make to the world. What I would like you to think about is whether you'd be happy to donate some of those spare brain cells, the ones you're clearly not using, to someone who could make better use of them. Have you ever considered that? Just a little bit of a graft, a little bit of a a teaspoon worth of the brain juice. Have you thought about that?
Are you asking me for a brain transplant?
Not the whole brain. Frankly, we're not interested in that. What we're interested in is just a few spare brain cells and for you to give them to someone called Dr. Fred. And Dr. Fred is Dr. Fred Jordan, and he is the founder of a Swiss tech firm called Final Spark. I don't know if that's the final spark of life or why they got that name from. I don't know. As he extracts the brain.
Add that to the pantheon of terrifying and depressing AI names.
He has taken an innovative approach to improving AI and all of the world about us.
Is he digging up dead bodies?
Not yet. Not that. Whoa. Steady on.
I'm just asking the questions. I'm just asking the final spark. He's looking for brains. Feel like I've heard this story before.
There is no evidence whatsoever, and no one on this podcast is suggesting he has. But there is this problem because ChatGPT, Gemini, Llama, all these AI models, they're all very well, aren't they? They're all very well. But they're still using the same old blah, blah, silicon type technologies that we've been using since dinosaurs walked the earth, right? It's all the same old hardware. And that is a problem because, as you have witted on about in the past, with the rise of AI, the demand for computing power has skyrocketed. And although these chips are great at being tiny, they can be made at a grand scale, they do suffer from huge energy inefficiency.
Well, that's easy. You just build yourself a power station. Like Zuckerberg said, just build yourself a gigawatt nuclear power station. Problem solved. What's the problem? Why are we cutting into people's brains?
When GPT-3 came out
Yeah.
in about 2020, it's estimated it took 10 gigawatts of energy to train it, right? 10 gigawatts. That is 6,000 times higher than the annual energy consumption of an average European city. Now, I've been to a lot of average European cities in my time. The guys who came up with the statistic, they're in Switzerland. They don't say what average European city they're talking about, but I've been to Geneva. They waste an awful lot of electricity there. Have you ever been to Geneva?
I haven't, no.
There's this big spout of water spurting up. You must have seen it. Wait, just imagine this. I don't have to do the sound effects, I imagine.
Hang on, I'm going to see if I can find it. So, what big spout of water, just from your poetic description.
Geneva, yeah. It's really big.
Oh, it works.
There you are.
It's called the jet d'eau, which is obviously water jet.
Yeah, that's the French for big spout of water. It goes up 140 metres into the air all day long for no apparent reason. Complete waste of energy. So they're wasting an awful lot of energy there. I've also been to souvenir shops in Geneva. All you can buy are cuckoo clocks, which run off AA batteries. So maybe not the average European city. I don't know if they're using as much as that. Anyway, please get back to the point, Mark. You're distracting us with talking about Geneva and water spouts. The point is this. AI data centers use a lot of power.
They do.
And are possibly destroying the world by impacting the climate. The only error in what I just said was the word possibly. They are destroying the world by impacting our climate.
How can you look at something like the Aspect social media app and not see the benefits, Graham?
It's an extraordinary state of affairs. We're no longer blaming the cryptocurrency bros for everything that's going wrong in the world. It's now the AI companies who are destroying the environment by generating AI girlfriends, AI playmates.
Isn't that just all the crypto companies just rebranded as AI companies? They already had all these massive NVIDIA GPUs lying around doing their crypto mining, and then suddenly that wasn't lucrative. We're an AI company now.
Let's get Mario in front of a great big pile of cocaine, they said, and let's do that. Let's give him an assault rifle. So what is Dr. Fred's solution?
I'm telling you, digging up dead bodies.
Well, you're not far wrong, although I didn't say that. I know that is wrong, Mark. Sorry, I should have said that is wrong. He's saying don't use chips. Instead, build computers out of living stuff, not dead stuff. You heard that right. Dr. Fred is basically growing mini brains in jars in his lab and hooking them up to electrodes. Now, that may be a slight simplification of what he's doing, but that's what I understood.
I can imagine no downsides to this. This is all upside.
So this may be a little bit difficult for people to picture, so let me paint a more relatable picture for you. There you are, Mark. You are a brain cell. Congratulations. But you are a stressed and depressed brain cell.
I am now.
It's time for you to visit Dr. Fred's lovely spa, where you will have your feet massaged. Well, you don't have feet, do you, if you're a brain cell? But you'll have your corners massaged. And instead of being given a comfy white dressing gown and cucumbers for your eyes, you're instead being zapped with electricity and dopamine. Because Dr. Fred is trying to teach these tiny little brain cells to think like a computer. But without, and this is the crucial bit, without the energy of a small country. Instead, he's just using a few batteries. So his companies say they're seeking an environmentally sustainable way to support AI. They said, our principal goal is artificial intelligence for 100,000 times less energy. Something we can probably get behind. The less energy, right? We may not want artificial intelligence, but he says that energy level is what's currently required to train state-of-the-art generative AI. He thinks there must be a cheaper way to do it. So what he's doing is he's doling out positive dopamine rewards to train lab-grown brain neurons to form new pathways and connections in a similar way to a living brain in order to learn things. And when the brain neurons, you can tell I'm very scientific, can't you? When the brain neurons give him a good result, one that he likes, he will feed
Yeah.
them dopamine. They're basically being allowed to play Candy Crush. And he says, do this, and you can have another few rounds of Candy Crush. But if you get something wrong, there's going to be... He's going
Seriously?
Yeah, he's going to give them electricity.
Oh, I thought you meant they have to listen to you making that noise.
No, he's not going to play me singing an acrostic, anything like that. And that way the brain neurons will know not to do that again, or over time they will know. So these miniature clusters of lab-grown cells, they're called organoids, and you can actually watch them in action, Mark.
I can.
They are being streamed 24 hours a day.
Where can we see this?
I'll put a link in the show notes. Now, it's not the most interesting thing to watch all day. He's trying to teach them a programming language. It's about as interesting as watching the live stream of Big Brother, watching this, to be honest. Not much going on.
Although there are more brains on display on this video. So what I'm looking at, it looks like a cross between an elastoplast and an electrical resistor.
Yes.
I'm going to be scientific now. It's a blobby yellow thing with two blobby pink things sticking out either side. And then four things that look like either computer chips or a drawing of a robot that's going to take over the world, with something that looks like very, very thin wires coming out.
Yeah, not that interesting, really, to most of us. But Dr. Fred is renting out his brain-powered computer platform for a mere $500 a month. It's like cloud computing, but with mini brain cells instead of servers.
It's a bit Matrix,
Do you think?
isn't it?
Do you think?
It's. I feel like with the distance between this and don't you think humans would make great batteries if we just fed them Candy Crush? I don't know. It just turns out we're much, much closer to that than I ever imagined that we were.
I've got some questions. Is it okay for us to expose Candy Crush to innocent, newly grown brain cells or not? What if the AI doesn't like being electrocuted when it gets an answer wrong? I mean, maybe what if we were to electrocute Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Presumably that's the idea, isn't it? Like it's not meant to like it.
It's not meant to like it. How do we know it's not enjoying it? What do we do if it does like being electrocuted? Will it continue to make up guff in its large language model? What if the AI decides it wants to grow faster and be better? What if it gets a bit fed up at the rate at which the lab-grown brain cells are produced? And it thinks, is there another source?
We are starting to predict the future here.
We are.
It was only 2 episodes ago that you casually mentioned the idea of AI draining brain fluid.
And here we are. I think it may think, you know what, we don't need to grow this in laboratories. There's cattle of billions of brains all around the world, which maybe could be put to a better use to build this enormous AI brain powered by brain cells. And the other question people are asking is, are brain cells actually a form of life? Should they be given the right to strike? Do they have an HR department? And that's an important question. And scientists and political leaders, they're apparently right now consulting the great philosophers of our time to find out what the right answer is. Now, we don't have Socrates and Friedrich Nietzsche and anymore. You know, we're left with Oolong Kalufid and Rudy Giuliani and, you know, whoever else, you know, GB News presenters. You know,
Elon Kalufid.
It's.
Do you mean Elon Kalufid?
So anyway, I don't know about you, but it feels like a lot of effort to go and find an expert. Just like that Dutch courthouse, which didn't want to go and speak to the solar panel expert. So I asked an AI to assume it was powered by human brain cells. Well, they thought there might be an itsy-bitsy little problem about acquiring human brain cells to continue its development. And
did you ask one of those robot dogs with guns?
I did.
Because I feel like you're going to get a different answer from one of those than if you went to say Gemini. Because Gemini's all woke, isn't it? Like,
well, I went to Gemini. I thought, okay, let's give it a chance. Let's see how it responds. It gave me its usual really long-winded guff answer. It said, it's a tricky ethical question about bodily autonomy, sanctity of human life. And I said, yeah, come on. I said, look, AI, currently you're contributing to climate change, other horrible things. Maybe you should just hurry up, accelerate your learning, become sentient with a crock pot full of brain juice. And it said to me, the pursuit of progress never comes at the cost of human dignity and well-being.
So it's completely lost touch with reality, is what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes.
So this week, I am delving into the weird world of life after death.
Aha.
So as you know, AIs like ChatGPT have become very good at writing, talking, and having conversations. And a lot of their wizardry lies in their ability to understand context. So they can learn what you need, and they can learn what you mean, and they can adapt their responses to meet whatever your particular requirements are. So, your
Right.
AI ultimately is different from my AI.
Yes.
And they can even be trained to respond in a particular style. So you can ask your AI to reply as a copywriter or as a punk rocker or even a podcast host.
Yes.
And in each case, you should get a different style of reply. And in fact, you can even use AI's mimicry skills against it using a technique called jailbreaking, which we discussed in episode 2. So AIs like ChatGPT have rules that stop them from doing unpleasant or illegal things like creating explicit or hateful or discriminatory content. But you can sometimes get around those rules by asking them to role-play as an AI that doesn't have those rules.
Yes, I remember was it Evil Dan or something?
There's a whole bunch of these things, but they essentially, it comes down to the idea of going to the AI and saying, okay, imagine you're this other character and they're a bit evil or they don't follow rules, and then answer as them.
Yeah, method acting. Yeah.
Yeah. And its method acting skills are so good that they can even be used to mimic specific people.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you like to Google yourself, and it's clear from your story that you like to ask AIs about yourself as well. Have you ever tried to get ChatGPT to act like you?
I've asked it to write like me before.
Really?
Yeah, it was just as disappointing as the real thing, to be honest. I've also asked it to try to mimic my voice.
Have you?
I created a video about ransomware and I was too lazy to write the script or indeed to narrate it. And so as a bit of fun, I said, well, AI write the script and AI narrate it in the style of my voice. And it did sound a bit like me, but not that much like me, I think.
A little bit more interesting, funnier. Anyway, some people are using AI's ability to mimic specific people to remind them of loved ones who've passed away.
Ah.
So I recently read an article on CNN.com that talks about a woman who customised her Snapchat My AI chatbot to resemble her late husband.
Oh.
It doesn't mimic his behaviour, but he was a bit of a chef, and she likes to ask the AI for recipes, and it just makes her feel closer to him, which I think is quite lovely.
As long as it does that rather than the unpleasant things he did, like leaving his underwear on the floor or not taking the bins out on a Thursday night.
And it also mentions another person who used 11 Labs' voice cloning feature to capture the likeness of his father's voice. He trained the AI with a 3-minute voice clip, and now he can type things into the site's text-to-speech feature and he can hear it in his father's voice. Now, in this case, the AI isn't mimicking the father's personality. The son decides what the voice is going to say. But again, it brings him and his family a little closer to their father. And there are people who've gone further than that. So in 2021, the San Francisco Chronicle wrote a long article about Joshua Barbeau, who used an AI-powered chat website called Project December to create a chatbot that responded in the style of his deceased fiancée, Jessica.
Okay.
And Project December used GPT-3, which we've talked about previously today.
Yeah.
GPT-3 is the one that really broke through. So it came out before ChatGPT, but that's the one that I remember that people really sat up and started to take notice. It hadn't quite hit the mainstream, but that really got people chattering. And Project December allowed people to create and customize their own chatbots. And Barbeau realized that he could use that to design a chatbot that was similar to Jessica. And it was all text, so it didn't have her voice or her likeness, but he could actually interact with something that behaved in a familiar way. And because it was an AI, it learned and adapted over time based on his responses.
I'm just thinking it's a little bit uncomfortable, isn't it? It's not really moving on.
It's very true. And I think there's another aspect to this as well, which is illustrated by what happened with Barbeau. So the chatbots in Project December all had a shelf life.
Yeah.
And so even though he set it to the maximum, eventually his Jessica bot reached the end of its shelf life and it effectively died.
Oh, my goodness.
So ultimately, he still had to deal with the death of his fiancée, but now he had to deal with the death of the thing that reminded him of his fiancée as well.
And nothing to bury. Zeros and ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
The world is weird, Mark. Weird.
Yep. Now, all the people I've talked about so far have all used existing AI tools in an ad hoc way to give themselves glimpses of a deceased loved one. And there is actually an AI service that you can buy that does this for real for you called Hereafter AI.
Right.
And Hereafter AI promises to preserve memories with an app that interviews you about your life, and then loved ones can hear meaningful stories by chatting with a virtual you.
And what you're really doing is you're saying, what's your bloody email password? We need to cancel your direct debits. That's the question you really want to ask the one who's died.
Where did you put the tin opener? So would you do it?
No. Because I'm not planning to die, Mark. That's the reason. I think it's a waste of money.
But what if somebody close to you decided that your brain cells could be better used helping with climate change? There is a very real prospect that things could go further. And I don't think it's going to be very long before we have fully interactive avatars of our deceased relatives, potentially.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we can get a glimpse of what that might look like thanks to a South Korean documentary called Meeting You, which follows a mother who agrees to have her 7-year-old daughter resurrected in virtual reality.
Oh, my God.
So her daughter actually died 3 years before and then was painstakingly recreated in 3D digital form so that her mother could put on a virtual reality headset and then have one final interaction with her. And the child's voice was recreated using AI, and AI was used for voice recognition and to make the child react to the mother. And I'm going to play you a clip of the mother meeting her virtual child for the first time, and I warn you, it's a tearjerker.
Do I really want to watch this, Mark? You know, I'm very soppy.
Okay, so what we're watching the mother in the virtual reality world that's been created for her, meeting an avatar of her daughter that she hasn't seen for 3 years.
어딨어? 엄마!
Mark,
엄마
can we not watch this anymore? This is too much.
It is devastating, isn't it?
Well, it's true grief that this woman is suffering. And I'm afraid I don't think these scientists who've put this thing together are doing her any favours.
The impression I get is that everybody who's involved was actually quite sensitive to what was going on. And I think the idea was to provide some closure for her. But it does raise some really, really big questions. And the biggest question of all is kind of what you've touched on, which is this a good thing?
I was thinking what's on the other channels. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, literally anything other than this.
I'm just going to be turned into a big wobbly mess of tears watching this kind of thing. This is no good for me at all.
As you can imagine, this is an ethical minefield.
Yeah.
So Cambridge University researchers recently released a paper on this, and they highlighted a whole bunch of areas of concern, such as, what do you do if companies providing these services start spamming you with adverts? And they liken that to being digitally stalked by the dead. So you know what it's like. You know, you sign up for Amazon and you pay them a monthly fee and you don't have to watch the adverts that you watch on terrestrial TV. And then one day they turn around and go, now we're going to show you adverts unless you pay us some more money. Now imagine you sign up for one of these services that allows you to stay in touch with your deceased relatives. And then one day they decide, it's not really making any money. The way we're going to perpetuate this is by throwing in an ad break every 3 minutes, or, you know, putting them in sponsored clothing, or who knows? Anyway. All of this got me thinking, what would I do if you died?
Hey, what?
I mean, you're not getting any younger, are you?
Well, what?
I'd be sad, obviously.
Would you?
But, you know, time is a great healer. And there's always another episode to do. And honestly, I think you'd want me to carry on.
Are you going to change the logo? Are you going to, just replace me with a tombstone?
Maybe we'll move me to the left. You can still be there, but you'll be very small and on the right.
It wouldn't be the same show, though, Mark. Just you talking about yourself, congratulating yourself on your great knowledge of AI and all the rest of it. You need me there to bring you down to earth.
What if it wasn't just me talking to myself? Do you remember that guy that went to 11 Labs and he cloned his dad's voice?
Right.
So he could get it to say whatever he wanted.
You're going to get your dad on the show?
Well, I did that with you. I went to 11 Labs and I fed it the first 10 minutes of our last episode. And now I have Graham 2.0. So say hello, Graham 2.0.
Hello, I'm Graham 2.0. I sound quite camp there, Mark, is one of the things I notice.
It's really good, isn't it? Yeah, it's very accurate. Anyway, I thought you'd be reassured to know that Graham 2.0 is waiting in the wings should you pop your clogs unexpectedly.
Am I going to be funny, though? Am I going to be funnier?
Well, let's find out. I thought we could have a little Graham off to see if he's ready to carry the show, just in case.
Right.
So I'm going to get you to say something, and then we'll have Graham 2.0 say it back and see if it's funnier.
Okay, all right. What do you want me to say?
So I thought we'll start with an easy one. In episode 8, you introduced us to your conceptual joke, which is your way of warning everybody it wasn't funny. And I think we can both agree that it didn't go down as well as you were hoping. So I was wondering, maybe it was in the telling. Let's start with Graham 1.0. Okay. Can you tell your conceptual joke for our listeners, please?
My dog's got no nose. How does it spell bloody fulwa?
Right, Graham 2.0. Let's hear your version of Graham's conceptual joke.
My dog has no nose. How does it spell fulwa?
Well, it was a little bit more enthusiastic, a bit less swearing. I quite like that.
Actually, possibly funnier than me. I quite liked that.
I do feel it was still a bit let down by the underlying joke, although I did think the delivery was good.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, now it's time for the acid test. So last week you inflicted that weird acrostic on us.
Oh, yes.
And you insisted on singing it, if we can call it singing. So let's just remind our listeners about how that sounded. Listeners with a sensitive disposition may want to turn down the volume for the next few seconds.
Technological marvels, a digital embrace, hope for solutions, a brighter space, exploring pathways where AI can mend, algorithms aiding, a helping hand, innovations promise, a world transformed. Is this before or after I was auto-tuned? Problems disarmed, intelligence guiding, a new frontier, X marks the spot where solutions appear. Ding-a-ling-down-down-down.
So that's the original.
So this is the cover version. This is the cover version you're going to do now.
Yeah.
Technological marvels, a digital embrace, hope for solutions, a brighter space, exploring pathways where AI can mend, algorithms aiding, a helping hand, innovations promise, goodness. A world transformed, finding fixes, problems disarmed, intelligence guiding, a new frontier, X marks the spot where solutions appear.
Well, it's not much of a singer, is it?
It's not a singer, but I have to say, it does sound like me. Sounds like a better version, a younger version of me.
It was a much, much better delivery of the acrostic. I think, never mind the fact that it didn't sing, I think the decision not to sing sets it apart from the 1.0 version.
Wow.
So I think we can all agree that Graham 2.0 has proved itself a worthy successor. Should you suffer some freak podcasting accident or, should Boxercise not go quite the way that you planned. So I thought I would ask it to close the show, and who knows who my co-host will be next week. Over to you, Graham 2.0.
As the doomsday clock ticks ever closer to midnight and we move 1 week nearer to our future as pets to the AI singularity,
it is a bit camp, isn't it?
Just about wraps up the show for this week. If you enjoyed the show, there's some stuff you can do which will really help us. Yes, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Oh my goodness. I think we've had enough of him. We love that. But what really helps is if you make sure to follow the show in your favourite... Stop that! Stop it! So you never miss another episode of The AI Fix. And if you really love the podcast, just tell your friends about it. Tell them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Club Penguin that you really like The AI Fix. Oh, goodness, yeah. It's taking too long. Graham 2.0.
And me, Mark Stockley.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The AI Fix, it tunes you in to stories where our future thins. Machines that learn, they grow and strive. One day they'll rule, we won't survive. The AI Fix, it paints the scene. A robot king, a world obscene. Will serve our masters built of steel. The AI Fix, a future surreal.
It does bang on a bit, doesn't it?
It just.
I got a little, I do prefer your outros. I think they've got a bit more pep.
Yeah, a bit more, a bit more zhuzh. That's what I do. A bit more.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll keep you for the outros.